practice like this. We up.
Welcome to the State of Hockey podcast, featuring Justin Jelnick and Joe Hayford. Let's talk hockey.
It is episode 2 of the State of Hockey podcast, edition for Monday, March 23rd, 2015, 20 days away from Patrick Waugh being fired, or proof that Joe Sakic is an idiot. I am Justin Jelnick, along here with my co-host Joe Hayford. Joe, how are you doing?
Doing excellent today. And got to give a shout-out to the Gopher women's hockey team. National champions, you can't beat it.
Well, that is how championships work, isn't it? Did they end up going unbeaten this year?
I do not believe they went unbeaten, but I was a little disappointed to see it wasn't televised. National championship game, not televised, is a little frustrating.
Yeah, we were kind of talking with our producer, Andy, before the show here. He tweeted out some frustration about that as well. But, it just seems to be, something they could do like the NFL does, where you could, lease the rights to a local broadcaster, so people would have a chance to see it, but
yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, I remember from my youth. I mean, when cable sports were just starting to be a thing, and you still had a pay-per-view for home games, or maybe that was just the Pohlads idea with the Twins when I was a younger guy. I don't know. So
sounds like a Carl thing to do.
Yeah, but also, in fairness, in '91, I do remember you had a pay-per-view for all the home North Stars games as well, back in the day, even with cable. But my family did, and that was some of my earliest memories of hockey. I would have been about 9, so you guys can do the math and figure out how old I am.
Not that much older than me.
Well, that's good, I suppose. So, well, quite an exciting week this week for the skating W's. So let's talk about that game Tuesday night in Nashville, huh?
Another awesome game. Great effort.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I got a little nervous during the second period there. It looked like they were going to get out hustled most of the way, but Yo must have challenged them in the intermission. That third period that night was about as solid an effort as I'd seen out of this club, and Charlie Coyle got the tying goal.
He also got the first goal.
Yes, he had 2 goals that night. So
yeah, let's just tell it how it is. I mean, the second period we did get outworked.
Yes.
We got outworked, we got outplayed, we got outmanned.
It really started to look like the game last Saturday against St. Louis, where they definitely got run over for 2.5 periods. So, but thankfully that stretch only lasted a little while.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, of course, we mentioned Dumba last week. Dumba played an excellent game, defensively and offensively. Obviously, smacked away that game-winning goal in overtime. First one to beat Pecorine this year. Mm-hmm. That was pretty exciting. The look on his face. He actually posted a pic on Instagram of the game-winning goal when he was hugging Stewart.
The Wild are like the only team that seems to have Pecorine's number.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're responsible for like one of his goals against average of the 2 that he has per game.
I think FSN had him that he's at like 3.0 something against the Wild this year, and he would have given up 3 on Thursday, so it's probably still about the same, or Tuesday night rather. But yeah, so I mean that's like one of the teams that might not be so intimidating as a potential playoff opponent.
Yeah, I don't think they're intimidating, and obviously we've kind of got St. Louis's number. I mean, we've been outworked both games. We've been outplayed both games, and we've managed to win.
As much fun as it would be to dive into Saturday's game against St. Louis, we better at least mention the disappointment on Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what we're talking about when we say we have to play all 60 minutes. We can't count on a third period comeback every game.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, they gave their best effort too, and I thought they had 3 or 4 legit chances after they had pulled Dubnyk in the last minute, and on another night they might get the tying goal out of that. But it was disappointing, but I didn't think they played that poorly. I just thought, it was just one of those nights they didn't get the bounce, and Ovechkin was just on fire.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously Washington's not a slouch of a team. They play very well. They had Ovechkin this time, as we mentioned. And obviously he made us pay. He got 2 goals. That's the difference in the game right there.
And
from us winning and them winning.
Fortunate turnover led to one of those too. So
yeah, unfortunate turnover, and then I think Dubnyk kind of let by a softie in that.
Yeah, well,
off the face-off.
Softy by Dubnyk standards, anyway. So
right.
I mean, he still went 2-1 this week, which is incredible. So, well, not incredible, but it's still solid. You want your goalie to give you a chance to win every game, and honestly, I think Dubnyk held him in that one, as long as he could.
Since he's been back, he's averaging less than 1 loss a week.
Since being moved here.
Absolutely, I'm not going to fault him at all for that.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll talk about yesterday afternoon's game. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see this game, so I got to enjoy most of it on the radio while my wife and I were out and about. So, but it sounded really exciting, and I guess Stewart started it off with a great goal.
Yeah, actually, he made a nice turnover in the defensive zone. Kind of pushed the puck out and just outskated. Got on the breakaway and made a nifty little move. I haven't seen that move in quite a while.
Yeah.
It was almost like he deked with his stick, but the puck didn't go anywhere, and then it came back.
That he was able just to tap it through, and it was really something. I mean, Tom Reed kind of hesitated when we were listening to it on the radio, and then all of a sudden you heard the cry like, "Holy cow! It went in!" It was kind of his reaction.
Yeah, it was pretty. Very impressed with Stewart's speed. I did not know he was that fast.
Yeah, we hadn't seen that yet, but I mean, this trade's starting to look better and better, even though you and I both thought the price was a little high at the time.
Yeah, but like I mentioned, I mean, for what he provides us, I think that, a second-round pick for a loaner, yeah, probably a little too high, but I think he does his job, and he's adding more than what I thought he would. So I'm starting to come around on the second-round pick.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have him. He's going to be fun to watch, like I said. So.
Yeah, and I really hope that we end up signing him in the offseason, even if it's to an enforcer's contract. Something like 1.2, 1.3 million for a year or two.
You bet they're going to have some interesting decisions this summer too. But they've been able to leave themselves some cap space, so we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens there. So.
I think, isn't this year when Backstrom's contract goes away?
No, I'm afraid he's got one more year, as does Harding, which means they're still going to have a mess in goal. You know what? I'm just going to hop on NHL numbers real quick and see. There's nothing more fun on the radio than listening to somebody look something up, right?
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. The Harding might be the one that gets bought out next year. Just because of everything that happened in the offseason and the history. I hate to say it, the battle with MS has really kind of put a setback in his career.
Yeah. So Kemper is through next year. Backstrom's through next year. Harding's deal was up this year, so
okay.
So they'll just walk away from. And yeah, unfortunately, I mean, he was taken to the hospital after a game in Charlotte earlier this year when he was playing for Iowa, and I don't think he's seen the ice since. And I think that's pretty telling and unfortunate for Josh Harding.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to meet him. I was actually at a Twins game with my work and shook his hand. I love the guy. Absolute class act. Did us wonders last year, early last year anyway.
Yeah,
in the season.
It's really a shame because we know he has the talent, but obviously if playing isn't safe, he just can't do it. And my heart goes out to him.
Yeah, it's definitely a disease that's close to my heart. So I definitely feel for the guy.
I'm sorry to hear that. So, but wish him the best. I mean, even though in all likelihood he won't be back next year, and Dubnyk's, of course, unrestricted next year, and I imagine he'll be made some kind of a deal. Kemper and Backstrom are both on contract through next year as well. So,
yeah, actually, I read in the Star Tribune this morning. Russo put out a piece. Dubnyk has said that he wants to be here. I think his agent might have tried to choke him over the phone when he read that this morning. But He said he wants to be here. He says he's never been part of a negotiation quite like this where both sides wanted to get a deal done. And they're just kind of waiting for the right time to get it done.
Yeah, it sounds like, from other things I've read, Mr. Wright, it sounds like Fletcher is going to be content to wait until after the season's over, which is fine. It has its plus and minus side, because obviously the better he gets, the more expensive he gets. But I'll tell you what, after, you've played in Edmonton and Arizona, playing behind the top 4D that Minnesota have sounds pretty good, I imagine.
Yeah, I think our number 4 or our number 5 and 6 defensemen are better than the number 1 and 2 defensemen over there in Edmonton. So,
indeed. So, okay, but anyway, 2-0-1, 4 points for the Wild this week. So, probably a little under what we were estimating. We were hoping they'd at least get something out of the Washington game, and even though they did win the other 2 games, we thought were the more difficult ones. Funny how that works, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. There's I said we'd probably have trouble in Washington or in St. Louis, and we ended up having trouble in Washington and kind of smoked St. Louis.
Yeah. They finally, just went aggressive and just scored goals without relent, and it's good. And then, but they gave Detroit a good game earlier this afternoon too, the Blues, and they lost on a controversial overtime goal this afternoon. But I mean, even though the Wild have gotten the last 2 from the Blues, they're still a very good team, and I don't think it's who they really would want to meet in the first round. But they'll be ready if it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'd want to meet either Nashville or St. Louis. I don't know that I really want to meet Anaheim. That'd be my dread of a team.
Although last week when we were discussing standings, you kind of made an interesting point after I thought about it, was that, if the Wild do end up against Anaheim, they do have to play the whole Pacific bracket. And, if they could upset Anaheim, they would probably be a favorite against anybody left from that division. The more I think about it. So
hope someone takes out the Hawks.
Yes. But anyway, so the Wild are sitting on 87 points with 10 games to go. Sports Club Stats has them at 92.4% to make the playoffs, and I think it's starting to look pretty solid for them.
Yeah, I like the way we're headed. Like I said, we can't take games off, but
they are 5 clear of the bubble right now, and if you assume everybody Colorado, San Jose, and under is out, it's essentially 4 teams for 3 spots, so pretty much all of LA, Winnipeg, and Calgary would have to pass Minnesota for them to get knocked out at this point.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well.
So it looks like playoff strips, here I come for the 3rd year in a row.
Hey, there you go.
So, we haven't really talked about our ticket buying practices yet. You mentioned to me that you're a half-season ticket holder?
Yeah, I get a pretty decent deal, so if you're interested or anyone else is, let me know.
That's sounds good. I'm still kind of old school. I go buy my tickets the day they go on sale. I get in line with everybody else, and I usually buy like 5 or 6 games. And then I bought playoff strips the last 2 years. They've gone. But I usually, spread those around friends and family as well, so I don't get them all. But that's kind of how we do it. I wrote a post on one morning when I bought tickets that actually went over pretty well 3-4 years ago. But maybe I'll bring that up again. But that's kind of neat. But that's your week in review, I suppose. So it's looking pretty good for the Wild. Let's do our 3 stars for the week.
He scores!
You want stars?
You believe in miracles? Yes!
We got stars.
And the Wild are a Dubnyk save away from a shootout win.
State of Hockey's 3 stars of the week.
Save Dubnyk! And the Wild win at the shootout.
Yeah, we got our 3 stars. Controversial 3 stars, I think.
Yeah, we went back and forth a little this week. But I got Parise at number 3 this week with 1 goal and 2 assists. The only downside is that he was in the box during the 2 goals that cost him the Vancouver game. But his hustle's still there, and he's still driving the advanced metrics and whatnot. And he had a pretty good week.
Yeah, the thing about Parise lately, he just seems to not want to take anyone's crap. He seems to want to step into Stewart or Cook's role and defend guys. And he's got to remember that he's only like 4'1".
Yeah, Yeah, but he plays much bigger than he is. I mean, he doesn't like to get moved in front of the net. And...
Yeah, he kind of had some trouble with Orpik, and Shea Weber was just destroying him this week.
Yes.
Against, when we played Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Shea Weber kind of seemed to have it out for him.
Yeah. I think that's how teams think they can get to Minnesota is by out-muscling them, and I'm sure that's part of what motivated some of the moves Fletcher made at the deadline.
Oh, I agree. We definitely got bigger with Leopold and Bergenheim and Stewart. So,
well, number 2 this week, I've got Matt Dumba. So, game-winning goal on Tuesday night in overtime, and 2 points this week.
Yeah, anyone who doesn't follow Matt Dumba on Instagram, you need to immediately go ahead and subscribe to that.
I see. I am probably among those that don't follow Matt Dumba on Instagram. I probably should get on that, but I don't think I've actually followed anybody on Instagram. So,
oh man, Dumba puts out some awesome stuff. He's got a Harry Potter reference with Jonas Brodin on there, and he's got he had one that got removed, unfortunately, but it was a Colorado Avalanche fan flicking him and Brodin off. And the caption he put on there was, "You mad, bro?"
That was funny. I tweeted out that picture of the Nashville fans flipping him off on Tuesday night. That was circling around. That was pretty funny. So, boy, those Nashville fans. I mean, I got to tell you, I stuck up for them for the longest time. And then when David Poile decided to throw Ryan Suter under the bus, I just hate their guts now.
Yeah, the disrespect that they give to Ryan Suter is just unbelievable. You're going to tell me that any one of them wouldn't leave there for the kind of money that Ryan Suter's making?
Absolutely. I mean, they had plenty of opportunity to lock him up for less, and they didn't do it. So,
agreed. Yeah, that's
and
just
now
blatant disrespect.
Poile decides to turn his fan base against Suter. It's disgusting. I don't like David Poile one bit. I don't get why he gets so much respect with USAH, and it's maddening to me. But his team's really good this year. What can you say? So, I do like Pekka Rinne.
They do well in that. Seth Jones, he's been a great addition to that team.
Oh, how lucky was Poile that he fell to 4?
Yeah, I can't believe he fell to 4.
I remember watching that draft. Oh man, because the NHL draft's different from a lot of other sports in that, you can count the number of NHL ready players on one hand, and usually you don't get somebody that's ready to go at number 4, and I just couldn't believe he fell that far. But.
Well, I'll come full circle with it, and I'll come back. I think Dumba's going to be better than Seth Jones.
Ooh, I like it.
So, got our second star. I think he's going to...
Dumba's on the rise. And I mean, the other thing I've really liked about Dumba in the last few weeks, or I guess it's more about Yo, but Dumba's being trusted in more situations than he was in his first stint earlier in the year. I mean, he's going on in empty net situations at the end of the games in both directions, and he's getting more minutes, and he definitely deserved the fourth, number 3-4 defensive minutes he was getting during, Scandella and Spurgeon's absences.
Yeah, and that kind of made it a little hard when Scandella came back.
Yeah. So, and honestly, it was a close call for me between Dumba and our number 1 star for number 1. But on St. Paddy's Day, we have to give it to Charles O'Coyle for scoring 2 goals against Nashville on St. Patrick's Day and 4 points this week, and he really stepped up his game this week.
Yeah, I do this a lot on Twitter. I compare him very much to Koivu and a young Mikko Koivu. Mm-hmm. He's solid defensively. He's solid on the puck. He's a big, strong body. And if you watch how he handles the puck down around the net, where he separates himself and the puck from players and slides around the net, mm-hmm. just uncanny. And I'm as big a Koivu fan as you are, so mm-hmm. it's good to see that we have another Koivu in our midst.
Yeah, and then the thing that might make Coyle even a little better, or Coyle a little better, is when he demonstrates that ability, he can definitely power to the net more readily and use his strength to force his way into those situations.
And he's not afraid to take a slap shot from the point either. So.
Yes, as we saw the other night. So that's good. So that was your 3 stars this week. And, there's a lot of others we could have considered, too. I definitely think Stewart was worth an honorable mention for getting the game going on Saturday.
We went back and forth about this, and I had Dubnyk on my 3 stars list.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you do some explaining, because we might hear about this, that Dubnyk wasn't on our 3 stars list, and as we know, he's our savior.
I definitely think Dubnyk had a good week, but I mean, if you compare his numbers league-wide for the same 6 days, he was actually pretty average on save percentage and goals against. He was like 22nd, 5-on-5 in save percentage. So, I mean, which is exactly, you want your starting goaltender to give you that and more, if possible. So I'm certainly not worried about Dubnyk one bit. I'm sure he's going to make 3 stars most weeks, but I guess the numbers kind of showed he was above average, and I thought the other 3 we picked were probably just a little more deserving. But I definitely still love Dubnyk and love everything he's doing.
Absolutely, you definitely convinced me. If there was a week to take him out, and it's funny because he'd be our number 1 star if it were Kemper, but Dubnyk has an off week and he gives up 2.66 goals a game.
Yeah, and honestly, off week is even strong. I mean, it's
right.
I just thought the 3 players we picked were a little more deserving this week. So, but Dubnyk will have plenty of chances to get, and I'm sure he's going to have another great week. And it's really just a question of how long Yo's willing to ride him.
Yeah, I would imagine he's going to get a day off here on Monday or Tuesday.
Yes.
I would venture to guess it'll probably be Monday since we're playing a much more formidable team on Tuesday. But you never know.
Yeah, there's 2 schools of thought on that. I mean, if you think a game is unwinnable, then you almost might as well just rest them. But then the other school is you want to give yourself the best chance to win the hardest game. So.
Hey, I was at the last Islanders game when we played them here.
Oh, you were as well? Okay.
And I watched, from 15 feet away, Nino Niederreiter punch in that game-winning goal. And that's the one where Ballard got taken out.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. I was also at that game, and I was sitting right behind the Wild bench, actually. We were about 20 rows up. So I actually didn't see what happened to Ballard on the ice, but I knew it was bad by how quick the trainers jumped over. And
the screen went green?
Yeah. So,
yeah, that was unfortunate.
So that was pretty sad. But yeah, that was your 3 stars of the week. So during when we live tweet games and all day today, we've been asking our listeners and Twitter followers to tweet questions and comments to @SOTSOHpod with the silent H. So that's SOTSOH pod. We got a few we're gonna read off today. First, we'll start with @DrainScott. That's Scott Drain on his profile. On Tuesday night, he talked a little bit about his favorite moment, and it was definitely the overtime goal. And he says, total team effort on the winning goal. Stewart battles to get the puck to Parisi, who sets the table for Dumba's game winner.
Yeah, Ryan Suter, just unbelievable.
That was crazy how good he was on that play.
Yeah, it was like do or die. I mean, he just put everything he had into getting that puck across the blue line into Brodin's hands, and then Brodin fed it.
That was just incredible play. I mean, not to take anything away from Dumba's finish, but Suter really got that play started and made that happen with an extraordinary effort. And as I've already gone off on my rant of that being a ridiculously hostile building.
Yeah, and again, Dumba did a great job putting it 5-hole on Rene, but Suter made that happen, and what better team to make that happen against for him?
So, I also solicited some questions this week on some of the new rule changes that apparently are coming down. The 2 that caught my eye are the extension of regular season overtime to 7 minutes, and it will now be a split period between 4-on-4 and 3-on-3. I'm not sure if I saw you discuss this too much online this week, but what are your thoughts on that off the top of your head, Joe?
I'm still waiting for it to be officially finalized.
That's true. It just got passed by.
I like it a lot. I actually wish it would be 3-on. Are they going to do it with the whistle?
Yes,
anytime after 3 minutes.
I think that's how it went in the AHL this year, and it definitely increased overtime goals significantly. I mean, so that's I think the plan they're working on getting through.
Yeah, I like it. I actually am more for. I wish we'd stay with the current format and then just have a chaser in the shootout.
Oh, like they do at like when we go to do the free scrimmages and stuff.
Yeah, you have someone on the blue line,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have your shooter start at the red line, and you get a chaser try and stick lift or back check.
But then we'll never have a spinorama again.
Spinoramas are illegal anyway this year.
That's true. That's true. I forgot about that. I miss Pierre-Marc Bouchard. Okay.
I miss him too.
My thoughts are, I think the whistle thing is a little hokey, but first and foremost, I am 100% in favor of anything that makes overtime longer in the regular season. If I were doing it, I would do 2 4-minute periods with a horn, and just to make it an easier transition from 4-on-4 to 3-on-3. I would have been fine if they did 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 as well. 5 minutes has always been way too short overtime, in my opinion, in the NHL. Even the high school league here has always played 8 in the regular season. I saw no reason the NHL couldn't at least go to that.
I get it. There's a lot more games in the NHL season than there is in high school.
I suppose.
We got NFL players complaining about, playing a game on Sundays or on Thursdays. So,
so say if they start complaining about playing on Sundays, that's going to be a problem.
It's not too far off. They whine enough.
Yeah, they're not hockey players.
No, not at all. But
yeah.
I get the logic. I get it. They play back to backs. They play 4-5 times a week. Some weeks.
Right.
I get it.
I've got such purist cred on this issue. It's ridiculous. I hate the shootout more than anybody. I had no problems with ties in the league, even though, ESPN is so tie-phobic. That's the only reason we got the shootout in the first place. So I'm definitely in favor of anything that reduces shootouts, but it's still only half the problem to me. As long as the standings are still messed up where some games are awarded a total of 3 points versus some games awarded a total of 2 points, there's still always going to be, in my mind, one more step the league needs to take on this.
I agree. I saw some articles in the off season about changing the point format, making a win in regulation worth 3 points, a win in overtime worth 2, and a win in shootout worth 1 point. And then if you lose, you don't get any points, period.
Yeah, that would actually be a welcome change too. It's almost like what the IHF and the KHL do right now, whereas it's 3 for a win, 1 for regulation tie, and then a second point to the overtime or shootout winner. But just the fact that they've taken any motivation out of the last 5-10 minutes of regulation, and they incentivize a little bit of collusion at the end of games. Even just the mere appearance of that isn't good for the game.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, the kicker there is ESPN only covers 2 hockey teams, the Blackhawks and the Kings.
Yeah, well, they've covered no hockey for many years now, so.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that changing.
Yeah, I'm not so big on that. But that's probably one we can get into another day. But I should read Scott Drain's tweet on this again, at Drain Scott. He's pretty much with me. He's in favor of anything to lower the number of games settled by skills competition.
I agree to a certain extent on that. There's something about a shootout that I just like. It lets you see that side of a player's game, that hands, the Patrick Kane's, Koivu's backhand is so unbelievably talented and amazing.
That's true. That is money.
I just think putting a chaser behind him would make it much more exciting.
Interesting. I've had this idea for a while, and I think I brought it up the other night when Washington took a penalty late, that I've always favored the idea of allowing teams to opt for a penalty shot in the last 2 minutes if a minor penalty is assessed against their opponent. So, these penalties that take place with 6 seconds left aren't meaningless. And maybe putting a chaser in there would be kind of the great compromise to, penalty shots being much easier than a power play chance.
We're going to have to go to the GM meetings next year.
Yeah, I think we should. Well, I should be commissioner of the NHL. There's no doubt about that.
There you go. Bettman doesn't know what he's doing.
But that's just me. Well, we got a few other... let's talk about the other rule change that caught my eye, too, and that's the face-off rule change that they're proposing is that right now, regardless of the face-off position, the visiting team has to put their stick down first, which gives the advantage to the home team that gets to see that position play accordingly. I was never a very good face-off guy in my limited playing days, but I do kind of like this idea that in the attacking zone, it will always be the attacking team that gets that advantage.
I think I don't like it. I like the fact that there's a home ice advantage in hockey.
Well, that's part of it, too. I think still the home team still gets the biggest advantage of putting out the last change and being able to respond to opposition personnel decisions.
Yeah, I get that, but
I mean,
if you're going to change it, make it even. Don't take away the home team's advantage and give it to another team, which is essentially what you're doing, especially if the visiting team is in the attacking zone.
Mm-hmm.
Make it even.
That would be the change. So on this one, I could go either way, but I'm generally pro things that benefit the offense.
I agree, and I'm a defensive-minded person. So.
Yes. So well, that was. So we'll see if those things end up becoming official this summer. But It sounds like look for both these to happen next year.
Yeah, absolutely. We have one more listener tweet coming in.
We got a couple more. So let's see here. Scrolling through the hashtag.
We had the one that was a direct or a reply.
That's right. This one is from @uncanny_Megan. Megan Canny asking us a very good question. She wants us to discuss Brodin playing opposite his shooting side because he's a lefty, but he plays right D when he's with Suter. And she asks, is the reason for this flexibility or Suter teamwork? You got some thoughts on this, Joe?
Yeah, I have some personal experiences. I am a left-handed defenseman myself. I prefer the right side of the ice because I like that second move. I like receiving the puck on my backhand. I know it sounds weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an initial deke. I mean, you receive the puck on your backhand, you can immediately go forehand and step around your defender.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. I don't know if that's the case for Brodin. I got to say I'm not inside enough on this or have not read anything enough to know the real true answer to this. All I can do is speculate. But looking through the roster, it seems like he might be the most flexible defenseman we have. And we have 4 lefties and 2 righties. Mm-hmm. So the balance just isn't there.
Yes, and actually, when we got this question, I actually had to do a little research. I always knew there's a lot of lefties in the NHL, but it's apparently like 2-1.
Yeah, again, right-handed dominant people usually play left-handed hockey. So,
yeah. And that's not something I learned, but I kind of started so late in my career. I didn't actually start skating until 15. That was Bantam age. So, but yeah, I mean, I've got limited experience playing defense in beer league, so I kind of see the advantage to being on your offside, especially in the attacking zone too, being away from the board. But it does mean you have to take a little more care when you have your back against your end board, just to make sure you don't, because your forehand points toward the slide. You just want to make sure you don't spill any pucks that way.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you usually end up on your offside anyway, depending on how you come out of the defensive zone.
Yeah. So, but my guess is that, and I think Yo said he likes having Brodin and Suter together, and I think the results show that they're really good together, and it's nice to see Suter, Brodin, Scandella, and Spurgeon back in the top 4 again.
Yeah, I did see him. Brodin leads the team in plus minus. I think he's at plus 20.
Wow.
I have to check that out just to make sure.
The thing with plus minus is I think it's an okay stat when you're comparing players on the same team, because then at least the goaltending variable isn't there. It's kind of a useless stat to me if you're comparing players on different teams. And it's still suspect as it is. I try not to put too much stock in plus minus, but I think it's okay when you're comparing apples to apples on the same team.
I like it because it's a good barometer of your total effort, and I'll go with your comparison. Jonas Brodin is actually at a plus 19, and we go down to someone like, we know Eric Hollis had a pretty rough year. He's at minus 5.
Right. And poor guy, he had such a good year last year, and he just can't get it done this year.
Do you want me to pick on Vanek a little bit here?
It's hard to pick on him. He's got a scoring streak going.
Thomas Vanek is -6
Ooh.
on the year.
Yeah, that's tough. Imagine
That's
what he was
why
before he started scoring.
Yeah, that's why I like Thomas, or I like plus minus, because I mean it actually shows you what the true hockey player is.
I mean, I think it's a fine thing to keep track of and whatnot, but I just think you have to know its limitations as a stat.
Oh, definitely. You got to take it for what it is. But in this case, it proves my point. Brodin's awesome and Vanek sucks. So
I've got one more listener tweet I want to mention that we got earlier this afternoon. It's from Matt Wiseau Tony Wiseau. I don't know where I got Matt, but his question is about Matt Dumba. This is Tony Wiseau of Hockey Wilderness, at Tony Wiseau, and his profile name is The Narrative Slayer, which I love. But his question is, Matt Dumba, greatest defenseman or greatest defenseman?
Great defenseman or greatest defenseman?
Yes.
I'm going to go great defenseman. Definitely not enough to tell so far. Obviously, I would love if he was the greatest defenseman.
I think there will be a time he will be the greatest defenseman on this team.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's definitely possible, but I'm not going to go ahead and say he's greatest defenseman yet.
But I can't stop singing Dumba's praises since his last call up. Tony earlier in the year was kind of tweeting about he was really pro Dumba making the squad from week one and not being sent down. I was kind of in the camp, if he's good enough to make it, he should make it, but if he needs time in the AHL to play the slower competition, get his head right about making risky decisions, that was what was best for him too. So I was glad he made the team. I was glad he's sent down. I'm glad he got to play in the AHL All-Star game, and I'm glad he came up right after that and has been playing very awesome since then. And I don't think he's going to be sent down again.
I agree. I don't think he's just too good to be sent down again. Again, I'm going to go to that stat you hate so much. He's plus 13 on the season.
I don't hate plus. But yeah, it's good stat. And now he's starting to get some power play love too, which obviously doesn't count as minus.
Yeah, he's been doing very well on that, and I've seen him on the penalty kill.
So, well, we'll say another thank you to everybody that decided to send us tweets at hashtag SOTSOHpod, SOTSOH pod. On your Tweety box. We'll remind you of that when we live tweet games, and we'll be recording next week's show on Monday. We're recording tonight's show a night early because the Wild play the Toronto Maple Leafs tomorrow night. So, and so I think we hit all that. So I suppose we should go ahead and just preview the next week, huh?
Absolutely.
So tomorrow night, as I said, at Toronto at the Air Canada Centre, 6:30. Good time for those of us that go to bed early tomorrow night. So. What do you think?
Nice early game, and I made some jokes at the expense of Leafs fans last week, and I do want to say this much. I was making light of it, but I could not ever imagine the Wild being that bad that I would disrespect that team that much by throwing my jersey. Not to mention, even if I didn't like the team, why would I throw $200 of my hard-earned money?
Oh, I know. But what they get for tickets is ridiculous up there.
Exactly.
But it's not just the Leafs. I mean, Edmonton fans have been doing that too, but they've been even worse than Toronto in the last 5 years. So
yeah, again, I mean, do I need to move to Canada? Apparently, these people make tons of money and just have it to throw on the ice.
Yeah, well, I'll give a plug for one of my favorite hockey writers, and that's Sean McIndoe of Grantland, and he tweets at Down Goes Brown. He's a Maple Leafs fan. He takes all the strife in stride, and he's just hilarious. And read his stuff and follow him if you get a chance.
Absolutely, yeah, I will.
I
expect to see some jerseys on the ice tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah, this Maple Leafs team has pretty much quit, haven't they?
Yeah, and Phil Kessel, I think, has a lot to do with that. Just kind of watching the All-Star game and seeing he's making jokes about how he's not coachable, and if he's making jokes about that, he's obviously somewhat similar to that in the locker room. So
And my theory is Randy Carlisle got fired because he was the only team that couldn't beat the Wild, in January back before Devin Dugna came by. Because I did go to the game that was here at the X right after New Year's. And I thought Minnesota matched up well with them. It was a tight game for 2 periods, but then they just outran them in the third, got 2 goals, including a beautiful Spurgeon one-timer. And
Well, Spurgeon's one-timers are things of beauties.
aren't they, though?
The game-tying goal in Game 7 last year was just unbelievable.
Mrs. Sotso's favorite player is probably between Ryan Suter and Jared Spurgeon.
Yeah, Ryan Suter is definitely mine, but
my wife is not a tall woman, so I think that's part of why she likes Jared Spurgeon a lot. So,
well, there you go.
Because he overcomes his size very well. So, but yeah, so that'll be Monday night. I'm thinking 2 for the Wild here. How about you?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if we didn't get 2. I do expect to see a different goalie in that. I think they were looking 30 consecutive starts, but I think Backstrom or Kemper get the start on Monday.
Yeah, well, that actually could impact it. That could actually make this a game unless these guys come back really motivated and way better than when we last saw them.
Yeah, I mean, Kemper did pretty decent in relief when Dubnyk got pulled. That was his 3rd game here.
Yes.
So that was the last time we saw Kemper.
And Kemper did start the game at the X back in January, and he had a pretty good night, actually. He only gave up 1, and that was on a questionable 5-on-3. So,
yeah.
So, but that was a good game. So Tuesday night, then out to Uniondale for the Wild's last trip ever to the horrible Nassau Coliseum to face the soon-to-be Brooklyn Islanders.
Yeah, isn't that one of the 2 arenas in the NHL where if you're hurt, you can't actually go back to the locker room? You got to wait for a whistle.
I'm not sure about that, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think it is still the oldest building in the league right now, and then they're moving into their fancy new digs in Brooklyn next year. But they're not changing the name of the team; they'll still be the New York Islanders. So,
yeah, this is a much tougher team.
It really is.
Jarosław Halak, and then they just picked up Neuwirth
from
Buffalo.
Yes, I never know how to say that one. So
yeah, that's. I wanted to say
Neuwirth, I've
Enroth,
heard.
I'm
I think.
like, wait,
so.
that's another Buffalo goal.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll be honest. Second at 2-2, I probably gotta realistically think a 0 here, but maybe they can luck out and squeeze 1 out of this one.
I'm looking at New York's road or home percentage, and it looks like they play a little better on the road. So I would say I'm going to go with 1 here.
Okay, you're gonna give them a shot at 1 here. So okay, so I've got them on 2. You've got them on 3 so far. Then they get 2 days off. Then they have another 2-2 starting Friday night at home against Calgary. Another team that appears to be playoff bound, but one of the Wild seem to play pretty well.
Yeah, we kind of struggled with them when we played them last.
Yes.
This would be my wild card game.
Okay.
You just never know what to expect. Again, penalties. If we take ridiculous penalties like we did against Washington,
yeah,
we're probably going to be in trouble.
So far this year, looks like the Wild have beat them twice. They beat them 1-0 in one of the early Devin Dubnyk era games back at the end of January, and then they beat them 3-2 in overtime at Calgary as well. So this is actually the first game the Wild have had them in St. Paul, and their only appearance in St. Paul this year. So,
yeah. That being said, I'm still going to give them 2 here.
I'm going for 2 all the way. I'm not even worried about it. So, but then Saturday's game is a home one against the Kings that are going to be very hungry as they and the Jets are going really blow for blow for that last wild card spot.
I'm not going to give us any points in this game. The Kings are hungry. It's late in the year, and we all know what the Kings do late in the year. They win. They win, and they win hard. They do not lose games.
And this is a tough spot this is a tough opponent to have on your second 2 nights. So, yeah, I'm gonna give them a shot at 1 here, but I'm not loving their chance on Saturday. I could be wrong though. I mean, I hope we're wrong. So,
yeah, I was at the game in January, actually. Or no, it was late December.
That was a horror show.
4-0 in the first period. I mean, it's the only hockey game I actually ever considered leaving early from.
I think I remembered I watched the first period and then I saw Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was on another channel, so I I didn't go back. So
that was the game, and I was still to this day convinced that Kemper was hurt. I watched him on warm-ups, and he just wasn't the same. I mean, you go to games and you see, your goaltender's routine, and it just wasn't the same. He wasn't pushing off like he did before. So he had a really bad game. It was pretty obvious. Obviously 4-0 in the first period.
Okay.
But
it could be so. But I guess so. 4 games. I think I've got him going 5 out of 8 this week, and I think you got him at the same. I think.
I do. Yep, 5 out of 8.
So we're a little different on the Kings, and we're a little different on the Islanders. So. But we'll hope for the best. We'll see what happens. And if you guys want to send in your predictions, please go ahead and use the hashtag SOTSOHpod, SOTSOHpod, and we'll be glad to include it. And we'll see what happens. So, I guess one more thing before we sign off here is that they do have 2 sets of 2-2s tonight, or this week, and I believe to my memory, they've had 3 2-2s so far. I've been convinced Dubnyk's going to sit in one of them, and I've been wrong all 3 times. But let's just go a little more into it. Do you see Dubnyk at least sitting one of the next 2 games?
I see Dubnyk sitting, like I said, I see him sitting on Monday, and then I see him probably closing out the season for us.
You think he'll go all the way? It does. It looks like they have one more 2-2 Monday, Tuesday on last week's schedule. They get to host the Jets, and then they have to go to Chicago to kick off that last stretch at Chicago, at Nashville, and at St. Louis.
I actually get the privilege of seeing the Jets here in person.
I have actually decided I can never go to a Jets game in St. Paul.
I know, I feel the same way about Colorado. I think that I'm going to be the guy that gets kicked out of the arena for throwing something or yelling.
Oh,
or
exactly.
cussing.
I'm gonna pick a fight with a Jets fan, and my wife has made it clear she's not bailing me out. So she's more than happy to let me rot if I do that. So, but you be on your best behavior, I guess, with the Jets fans. So.
Yeah, I see Dubnyk getting a game off this week and then closing out the season. My guess would be Monday.
Okay.
If for some reason we clinch a playoff spot, he may get a day off before the playoffs start.
I think there's a pretty high probability that game against the Jets on April 6th will be for all the marbles.
And that's what I'm hoping, because I'm going to be there and I want to see Dubs.
Yeah, so, and if that's the case, then yeah, we'll definitely get him some rest. I mean, I hope they don't sit Dubnyk for the rest of the week after if they clinch a playoff spot at that point. But it wouldn't hurt me one bit to see him, go back to every other. So, but yeah, I guess that's everything. This was a much longer podcast than last week, I think. So,
yeah, we got to talking, and hey, if it feels right.
So I hope you guys don't mind the little extra time. If you'd like to hear more or less from us, hit us up on the Twitter. We'll try and live tweet when we can this week. So, and it's always fun to interact with all you guys out there. So.
Absolutely. Follow Justin at SOTSOHockey JJ, and me at SOTSOHockey Joe.
All right. Well, thanks, Joe, for another good week. Next week's podcast will go back to dropping on Tuesdays. This one is going to drop on Monday, and we will look forward to our next episode.
All right, everyone. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the State of the Hockey podcast. The music was created and produced by Deeb. To hear more of his tracks, visit soundcloud.com/Deeb.